boAt plus HrdWyr power India's audio chip revolution. India's largest audio brand is about to sound very different. Not in your ears, but inside the chip. boAt, the company that dominates India's true wireless stereo (TWS) and audio devices, is co-developing its first India-made chip with Bangalore's semiconductor startup HrdWyr, with Tata Electronics assembling it right here at home. The chip, called Indus 1011, is an MCU-class system on a chip SoC designed for headset charging cases. It promises 20 to 30% better charging efficiency and smarter power management. boAt plans to roll out its first in its premium Nirvana range by mid-2026, with prototypes ready this December. So by 2026, nearly 1 in 4 boAt devices will run on Indian silicon. Despite designing most of its Prime and Nirvana series locally, boAt still imported chips from Taiwan and China. Now, with HrdWyr's 30 to 35 engineers designing IP in Bangalore and Tata Electronics handling assembly and packaging, this marks the first high-volume branded chip for audio devices built in India. Over time, AI layers will be added for even smarter battery performance. This is bigger than a single SoC. It's actually about supply chain sovereignty, shorter lead times, less import dependence, and the cost benefits as the scale improves. HrdWyr calls it a merchant chip, one that can power other products beyond boAt. For India's semiconductor story, it's actually a case study in how startups, OEMs, and giants like Tata can stitch together an ecosystem. boAt already makes 80% of its 30 million annual devices in India. With Indus 1011, it wants to lift that to 90 to 95%, and why not? While maintaining its 30 to 33% market share. The message is quite clear. The next wave of consumer technology innovation isn't just designed in India. It's actually being powered by chips made in India. Joining us today are two leaders driving India's consumer semiconductor leap. Mr. Shyam Vedantam, Chief Product Delivery Officer at boAt, the brand that has ruled India's audio and wearables market for 13 straight quarters with over 30% share. Shyam brings 25 years of experience across IoT, AI, and deep tech ventures, and today he's leading boAt's big bet on homegrown silicon. Alongside him, we have Ramamurthy Sivakumar, aka Siva, co-founder and CEO of HrdWyr Ventures. He's, of course, a seasoned investor and an entrepreneur who previously led Intel Capital in South Asia. So basically, from backing deep tech startups to building new age semiconductor IP, Siva now partners with boAt and Tata Electronics to deliver the Indus 1011 chip, India's first branded audio SoC designed, assembled, and packaged entirely, yes, you guessed it, in India. So together, they represent the startup OEM manufacturing partnership that could actually become the blueprint for India's consumer semiconductor story. It's a true pleasure having the both of you with us today. And of course, kicking off the conversation, I would just like to start with the fact that we are very, very proud that this momentous little event has taken place. And Indus 1011, which marks a milestone as one of the first high-volume branded chips from an Indian consumer electronics brand. So the question is, sir, what drove boAt to design its own silicon at this stage? And how does Indus 1011 strengthen your long-term hardware and innovation roadmap?
Yeah, I don't think we have any monopoly on brilliance. There are brilliant engineers in practically every startup. That's why startups start largely by engineers. Uh, Medium-sized companies, large companies, services companies, all kinds of people have brilliant engineers. So there is no monopoly on brilliance. Always the
Okay.
challenge is to find the next brilliant guy and make sure that they work for us rather than for somebody else, right? So, having said that, I think you already touched upon a few very important points. One is, in the business of semiconductors, your leadership comes out of innovation, right? It's probably true for a lot of other businesses, but the only business I know is semiconductors. And
Mhm,
the real anchor, the thing that drives us and drives the business, is always
mm,
innovation. But you
mm,
can innovate till the cows come home, but you need somebody to receive your innovation, right? So often what
mm,
happens is, you have engineers think of problems, complex problems, come up with neat solutions, build great products like semiconductors, and then try to take it to market. That formula is difficult because
okay.
you might build the greatest widget known to mankind, but you need
Mm,
somebody who wants that exact widget. So one of
mhm,
the fundamental thesis we had on our strategy to market was that we
mhm,
didn't want to build any chip without engaging deeply with the customer. And
mhm.
finding such a customer is not that easy, right? So we
Right.
talked to a number of different people across
Mhm,
different verticals and use cases. And boAt was almost a perfect fit for us. They were looking for innovation. They were looking
right.
for innovation in areas we have some expertise, right? That is critical.
Helps.
And
Always helps.
yeah, and it was also their internal expertise, right? You
Yeah.
could build whatever you want, but if you don't have a receiving party on the other side, the male and the female,
Yeah.
getting the exact match there is very, very important. And I won't try to go into who was the male and female here, but the important thing is that we had that depth within boAt. We engaged iteratively over several months before we pulled the specification together along with them, after understanding their problem statement. And then the second part is what you mentioned, which is the both of you mentioned actually, on the supply chain resilience. So the
Mm,
timing was perfect for us because then we could show why the supply chain resilience could be managed. And in that, our choice of going with Tata Electronics for OSAT services is very, very
mm,
critical,
mm,
because that then proves to you that we can conceptualize, we can look for problems in the white space, innovate to build the solution, and then bring out the final product with factories that are being built in India. And
mm.
increasingly, more of that entire value chain will be completed in India. So those are all the different elements. There are a lot of other things that I can talk about, but I'll stop there.
Of course, both of you gentlemen mentioned the importance of supply chain independence. Uh, so this is, of course, to the both of you. You had mentioned, Shamsa, that still relying heavily on Taiwan and China for chips. How much supply chain control and cost advantage, well, do you expect as Indus 1011 starts to scale? This is, of course, to the both of you gentlemen.
Right. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we are definitely dependent on Taiwan and China for a lot of our hardware and semiconductor supplies at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, right, the engagement that we have with HrdWyr and the solution that we are building, the Indus 1011 solution, is not necessarily to derive cost advantage, right? Because starting
Mm,
off from scratch, we definitely would not be able to achieve the economies of scale. But over time, as the scale happens and scale gets realized, we definitely are. There would be a cost advantage, but at least for now, there are a couple of key drivers for us in addition to the supply chain resilience, and then making sure that we have faster go to market. The other area that was important for us was also in terms of the overall solution being a lot more performant than the current options that we have.
mm,
So that's where I think Shiva and team and the HrdWyr team essentially helped create a completely integrated power management solution that could be deployed across a wide variety of hearable and wearable devices. So initially, for cost constraints, we might be starting off with a few smaller set of devices, but hopefully over time, we would like to deploy this at scale.
Fair enough. Shiva sir, it's extremely integral in terms of the fact that when you're looking at, let's say, localizing or developing and switching from export now to local manufacturing, it's very critical, I believe, in terms of making sure that the processes are being followed, because this is already a component, or this is already a product which is running in the market. There are X amount of exigencies which one needs to take care of. So, how critical was that particular aspect for HrdWyr and all of the engineers to replicate something which has been going on for some time, to ease off the dependence and start to get into a situation where you're eventually going to be building at scale?
Yeah, very, very critical question, because we are not supplying to boAt for a product that is not non-existent in the market. It's a product that already exists.
Yeah.
Over the engagement, boAt decided that they would actually take us into what they call the Nirvana product line, which is the top end of their chain. And so the responsibility we carry to deliver the road or hit the road running is very, very critical. There can't be any hiccup. And fortunately, one of the things that we managed to do at HrdWyr is to attract a team that has many decades of experience, having worked on and delivered at very high volume hundreds of SoCs, of course, for multinationals, which is where most of the SoCs came from. But then the team of the 7 or 8 initial leadership team that we were able to pull together has done this collectively over 300 years. So there's a lot of experience that has gone into this. And
Right.
fortunately, the semiconductor business is one of those that actually rewards you for having gray hair. So all of us have gray hair, and that actually is a very critical part. Is that the way the semiconductor business is very front end loaded. There's a lot of cost in designing the chip. Once we finish the chip, then it goes into the long manufacturing cycle, and there is not a lot of opportunity if you have a hiccup, right? If you have a hiccup and then you have to restart the cycle, there is a lot of sunk cost, which could pretty much kill your business, right? So one of the benefits we have is just having that decades of experience, having done this, and then having a partner like boAt that really has empathy for that process, right? It is You cannot have, this is a game of staying power and patience, right? And
Sure.
if you are in a hurry, or if you're impatient, or you're nervous, this is a very difficult business to get into. So I think there is a lot of different elements that came together. The Indian ecosystem is also maturing rapidly, but still maturing. There's a lot of different elements that we had to very carefully handpick. And fortunately, again, with our leadership team, we had reached into a very, very broad part of the sort of the value chain of semiconductor design in this country. And we were able to handpick the people that we wanted to work with. All the different piece parts were put together. So it's a massive jigsaw puzzle, or a Lego puzzle that you have to bring together to deliver a very high quality, world class product.
Yeah, I mean, if you can also
Wonderful.
add to what Shiva just mentioned, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
I think so it's also about a deep understanding of the customer use cases and the product applications, right? So we have over the last several years built several products in the personal audio space, and we have developed a very good understanding of the key real world problems that customers face, primarily pertaining to this use case, right, in terms of charging and battery management. So here this is a very, very critical part of the entire puzzle. It's a very critical component in the entire technology design and the bill of material. So we brought in our understanding of the use cases, the real world use cases, and essentially worked very closely in with the hardware team in making sure that the spec handles all of the real world scenarios, and then is able to deliver the best possible performance for the kind of solution, that problem that we're trying to solve here.
Fair enough. Gentlemen, before actually I move on to the partnership aspect of it, like Shiva had mentioned, I just have a quick follow up. Whenever there is a vendor, development, or for that matter, in this case, correct me if I'm wrong, this is almost going to be a vendor replacement over a period of time. Uh, OEM manufacturing has it's a very tough terrain from the point of view of the fact that the designs, the blueprints, all of those factors are very closely held, almost secrets. So I would love for both of you to maybe shed light on that development process, because that was critical. And Shiva sir alluded to something which I thought was so true, which was, of course, the fact that the patience, the staying power, the synergy that needed to come and happen magically between boAt and HrdWyr. But this must have been, was it a challenge point at all, or was it not?
I'll let Sham go first, and I'll certainly add my words.
No, I think there was a lot of synergy, right, in terms of the teams and what we brought to the table in engineering the solution. So, as I mentioned earlier, we brought in a lot of brought in understanding of the problem space. We brought in understanding of the domain. We brought in understanding of the use cases, and Shiva and his team knew how to solve this in the most optimal, cost-effective manner possible, right? But as you rightly mentioned, yes, the solution is trying to replace something that already exists. And that's our hope, right? I think starting 2026 is when we would like to deploy this in the market.
Sure.
And over the next couple of months, we would also like to make sure that we do a lot of field trials. This is an important part of any consumer product, to make sure it is completely hardened, resilient, and works in every single scenario. And that's something that we would be working on the next couple of months. But I think in terms of engaging with the HrdWyr team, I think it has been, I think, a very, very rewarding experience, I would say.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, so the word vendor was
Yeah.
never part of our vocabulary. Right?
Beautiful.
From day one, it was a
Partnership.
collaboration and a
Nice.
way to solve end consumer problems. We started with the end consumer. Let's focus on the market, understand the consumer, and then we worked backwards. And our hope is that we are creating a different tone and a different template and a different framework for how these things have to be done. And the best way to do that is to innovate, and to do that in a very compressed time frame, where you can actually say that this thing works, right? If you take 3 or 4 years to deliver some of these things, the belief can be a little bit softer. So one of the things that we did do with boAt from day one was to have an incredibly transparent relationship. You would not imagine how open we were with each other. Them sharing data with us sharing all of the challenges that we go through in terms of translating that into specs. On the specs, there are, I don't know, a dozen iterations probably, right? On what exactly you needed to tune what. There were lots of ideas we had on the AI stack we wanted to build. You can bring some of those elements into the picture. How do you actually roll it out? If you have a half a dozen different innovations, you don't overwhelm the end consumer, right? You have to stage those things. And all of those things have an impact, not just on the ability to do a final product that works very sweetly, but also you have a roadmap, right? This is never about a point product. It's never about a point relationship. And then what it opens up is a dialogue for the future. So TWS is a great starting point. These guys have a phenomenal footprint of audio products, but they have ambitions. We have ambitions. There's a lot of things that we can actually do together, not just in the audio segment, but in other segments that actually will innovate as we go forward.
Which is extremely encouraging. So basically, HrdWyr is making the chip, is designing the chip. Tata Electronics is assembling it. So how does this tri-partnership first come together? And most importantly, what does it mean for India's semiconductor ecosystem? This is, of course, to the both of you gentlemen. And before you would probably like to answer that, I, of course, have to mention that these headphones that I'm using are marvelous. Just wanted to tell you that.
That's great.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so I think the idea of finding the right customer to work with was very critical for us, right? Me and my co-founder, we decided that that was going to be our fundamental model. Even after we had raised some capital, we basically said finding that customer is super critical, right? And it wasn't easy. It took us, good 4 months to figure out, where exactly the right sweet spot was. And then it took us another 4 months of engagement between boAt and HrdWyr to get to an MOU that we said, this is what we are going to do. And for boAt to actually make that leap of faith on us was an incredibly important test, right? It is easy to sort of talk about these things in hindsight, but that is a very, very critical decision, that there is somebody who actually then has that patience to do it. So as you go through the semiconductor development cycle, there's points in time that come when you have to start deciding where you're going to build it. What is the ideal technology on which you're going to build? What is the where is the cost points that can be met? So we did a pretty broad study of all of the people who could actually do the final product for us, and we were very happy that we were actually able to find that in India and with Tata Electronics. And it was again a multi-month process before we decided. They did diligence on us because we are a startup and they want to make sure that that we are going to be around. And then for us it was very critical that we deliver to boAt what we promised to deliver, and deliver in high volume. This is a consumer business, and consumers are very fickle. You make one mistake, your game's over. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, that's true. Shivas, Shyam sir, the fact that there is of course that sense of compliment to you in a big way, which has just been given, extended by Shiva sir, talking about the fact that the patience, I think that's my key takeaway, which he just spoke about. And of course, the fact that trusting a partner who will be able to deliver at that scale. So while the entire synergy or the partnership was coming together, what was going through your mind? Were there any initial inhibitions, or were there a little bit of insecurities that, okay, wait a minute, will this happen? Because here are products which are already in the market. I mean, or for that matter, that wonderful smile that probably came to your face right now was probably the start point when HrdWyr went ahead and partnered with you.
Well, I guess there were no questions in our mind, I guess. I think, and even the very few questions that were there were not essentially around whether the team would be able to design a solution that would meet our requirements, because I think the team comes with very rich experience of building multiple semiconductor products across multiple domains. So that was not a question in our minds at all. The only question that we had in our minds was essentially how would they figure out how to get this made and manufactured at scale. I think that was the only problem, I guess, or the question that we had in our mind initially. But I guess we were able to partner with the team at HrdWyr. We were very open and transparent, as Shiva also alluded to, in terms of how we would be able to deploy and scale the solution over a period of time, initially starting off with our premium Nirvana products. And then they managed to crack the entire supply chain and manufacturing for their products. So I think that was the only question in our mind. So the question was never about whether the team would be capable of designing it. I think that was never a problem at all.
And it's so nice to know that today, Shyam sir, that you're saying that question has been resoundingly answered.
Absolutely.
Wonderful to know. Of course, I would like, of course, to move on to the roadmap ahead, which is, of course, very important. We're talking about scale. We're talking about all those factors, plus the fact that right now the initial bit has been cracked and all the inhibitions have been put aside. So Indus 1011 starts with better charging efficiency, but you've also hinted at AI features down the line. So the question is, what kind of smarts can we expect in the next generation of boAt devices?
Sure. I'll probably talk about it both from the perspective of what we're thinking of from the Indus chip as well as the broader boat portfolio. And then Shiva, please chime in with your thoughts as well. So from the point of view of AI, right? I mean, obviously, it's a very key pillar in terms of our product and technology roadmap. So for the Indus chip today, we are looking at how we can build in AI-enabled battery management models that would look at factors such as charging and discharging cycles, temperature, voltage metrics, etc., and build an intelligent battery management model that can extend battery life and improve battery performance. So that these are some of the simple use cases that we're thinking of at this point in time. But then I think over time we are looking at solving more complex problems to come as well, both in the context of the Indus chip as well as in terms of our overall broader AI portfolio across the not just at a chip level, but also at a software, app, and cloud stack. With the advent of LLMs, right? I think they're becoming ubiquitous more and more. Voice-based assistants are getting, are seeing a revival. And for hearable devices, voice-based AI paradigms are obviously an obvious choice in terms of figuring out how we can improve the overall customer experience, and make the end-to-end device experience a lot more richer and compelling for the end users. So that I think is some of the things that we're looking at it from a app and a cloud point of view. Shiva, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just on the audio side itself, essentially think of this chip as something that is applicable to anything that has a lithium-ion battery in it. It can improve things, any consumer product that has a lithium-ion battery. And one of the most important predicates in the, or probably the most important predicate in the semiconductor business is volume, right? The more volume we can aggregate over various product lines that boAt has, and what happens in the merchant silicon market, the more we aggregate, the better economics we get to. So that is a fundamental sort of driver for any semiconductor company. And as we sort of think about new areas to go into, new solutions to do with boAt, with other customers, and so on, the beauty of the semiconductor business is that you just continue to accrue your portfolio IP. Think of IP as just Lego blocks. You gain more and more and more Lego blocks in your portfolio, right? And over time, you'll have hundreds of IPs, and you might have thousands of IPs and go on. Then what happens is you combine these things in new and unique ways to find solutions for which you actually then turn them into products. And the way you turn them into products, in our model at least, is that we'll only turn them into products when we have an anchor customer like boAt. I mean, boAt is almost sort of our canonical definition of a type of customer that we would like to work with. Because all of the things that you heard in the last 30, 45 minutes, those are all very critical for us. Because then, from the beginning, we have the confidence that if we were actually able to deliver it with the features and the performance and all of that, and at the economics that both of us have agreed upon, then we can scale the business. So it takes away a huge risk element that a lot of companies face if you sort of build chips in the vacuum. And like I said before, one of the problems in this business in some ways is that it is front-end loaded. There's a lot of money that you have to spend up front to get the product to market. So you don't want to have a surprise when you're ready to scale.
It's before, of course, I move on to that scale aspect of it, because it seems that is honestly a cornerstone in terms of the semiconductor business. And of course, with the way boAt is going about its market share, I have to compliment both of you gentlemen, because we've seen a beautiful partnership with the both of you, including the fact that you have coordinated your t-shirts today. So well done. Of course, I will come back to the scale bit. 30% of the market share, sir. You're already dominating that. And of course, millions of devices which are shipping annually. So this, of course, again, a question to the both of you. The competition is obviously going to be inevitable. So how does Indus 1011 stand apart when stacked against giants like Qualcomm or MediaTek? And What stops global rivals from undercutting you once boAt proves the demand at scale?
Yeah, Shiva, would you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, the competition is what drives us, right? The
Yeah.
moment there isn't competition, there is no innovation, right? Then you could have a monopoly and sell the same rotary phone for 30 years, right? So you get the same rotary phone without any innovation. And so,
Right.
our business is, you are only as good as your next innovation, right? And how do you continue to do that?
Right.
And again, we repeated this a few times, is that if you have that entire value chain thought through, you'll continue to innovate, right? And then you have a path to market, right?
Hmm.
Now, of course, there will be people, big and small, MNCs and local and Chinese and Taiwanese. Everybody is going to look at what we are doing. We look at what they're
Sure.
doing. I mean, there's no surprise, right? We go through incredibly deep comparative analysis. They're going to do the same
Right.
thing. And
Right.
we can only win if we continue to deliver what our customer wants, which is the OEM, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
having that knowledge of what problems the OEM has, that we can continue to stay ahead of the curve, will continue to be our sort of secret sauce to success. The day we
Right.
take our eyes off the ball on innovation, the game is over.
Yeah,
Very
and
incisive.
yeah, I mean, to add to what Shiva just said, right? Just as he mentioned, I mean, and for us, the only way to succeed in the market and stay abreast of competition is to deliver what customer wants and continuously delight customers, right? I think that's the only way we can
Hmm.
succeed in the market.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the key driver for all of that is innovation, right? How is it that we can continue to innovate across the entire technology stack?
Wonderful. Again, this particular question, because everyone's curious, Shiva sir and Sham sir, that at what nanometer node is the Indus 1011 built, and how important is the node size when the focus is on power efficiency for something like audio charging cases? Because we just, of course, alluded to innovation and
Yeah,
it being a constant
yeah,
aspect in the journey ahead.
yeah. Yeah, so I'll just give you a very quick description of the how this thing works, right? Your most
Hmm.
advanced nodes that you hear about, 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, all of that
Yeah.
applies to purely digital products. Analog products work in much higher geometries. Products today ship, high volume products, analog products shipping anywhere from 28 nanometers all the way to 180 nanometers, right? So there's a very large range. Ours is a pretty deeply mixed signal chip with a pretty large analog component in it. So finding that optimal node that delivers the type of performance and power and various other aspects that we look for, size, all of that becomes very critical for us to develop a very economic product. And those are all the design challenges that we have. And we will continue to find the right optimal point for whatever product that we actually choose to build in the future.
Very interesting. Of course, this to the both of you gentlemen, Semicon India 2025, a big one, where of course PM Modi was very vociferous. He was of course very clear in making that clarion call. I of course want to ask the both of you gentlemen, how aspirational is it that when he made that statement that even the smallest chip made in India could actually make the biggest difference in the world moving forward? So, in terms of aspiration, in terms of the fact that this is a wonderful synergy, seeing the both of you together and what it amounts to in the near future, how does that inspire you?
Sham, I'll let you take this first. I took the last two first.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I guess, right, I think the very fact that leadership at all levels in the country are setting the right framework and environment for us to be able to deliver is very encouraging and motivating. Right, and and at boAt and HrdWyr, we have been able to stitch together the right partnership and prove that this is a very successful model, right? boAt, HrdWyr, Tata Electronics coming together to solve a real world problem for Indian consumers, designed
Sure.
and packaged in India. So this
Hmm.
is a very good, as you mentioned earlier, a very good case study, and we have essentially proven to the entire industry that this is something that's feasible at scale, right? And not just as a one-off, but this is something that we hope to replicate also across several products to come in the future. And I think so that I think is essentially how we are approaching this.
Yeah, and I was fortunate to be at Semicon this morning. I attended the inaugural session, listened to all the speeches, and I think, like Sham said, having that air cover and that constant encouragement from the ecosystem that we are getting better, we are going to continue to support. I mean, he actually announced that there is a new support scheme coming out for design more chips in the country. All of that is incredibly positive, and it's obviously. For me, what was the best thing is that in probably the 5,000 people sitting in that
Hmm.
convention center, there were probably 30 or 40% students. There was an enormous
Nice.
student population because of the programs that the government has been putting out for
Hmm.
EDA tools and giving them access, giving them very early access. When we were
Hmm.
students, many decades back,
Not
they
at
were
all,
not.
Shiva sir. I mean, let's not say that because you're just still, I guess, a very young
Okay,
Turk.
I'll take it on. But the point remains that the support that we are thinking through of how to actually capture that very early in the cycle is very, very important, because these things
Hmm.
take many years of learning before you can actually
Hmm.
deliver
Hmm.
world class products. And our
Hmm.
ultimate test, right? I mean, in the speech this morning, he talked about design in India and make in India. Uh, for us, the most
Yes.
critical test here is, yes, it's great to have a very high volume customer for us like boAt. We'd like to have
Hmm.
other Indian customers, but the real
Hmm.
test for our industry
Hmm.
is to then take it to the world, right? This has to compete
Nice.
with the best in the world. And if we don't do that, right, then we have not actually, we will not be able to be that successful, right? There is
Yeah.
no captive semiconductor business. It doesn't matter whether you're the largest economy in the world or the second largest economy in the world or the most innovative economy in the world. It makes no difference. This is a global supply chain. The
Yeah.
semiconductor business is probably one of the most global businesses out there, and your success is completely predicated on how global you get, right?
Nice.
We have the ambitions and big thoughts, but this is all about staying power. You got to stay in this thing for 3 years,
Hmm.
5 years, 7 years, 15 years before you can prove the model. So this is not about something that we test for, one relationship or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. This is a very long term game. And semiconductors, as you know, are the foundations of any modern economy. I mean, we have
Hmm.
no more fundamental building block than semiconductors.
True.
And for us to be one of the top three economies in the world and to continue to grow and maybe become the second largest or the largest economy in the world over the next many decades,
Hmm.
that foundation has to be built extremely strong. And on local IP, I'll again say local IP, you need to own
Hmm.
IP,
Hmm.
right? And then build the world's greatest products.
Wonderful. Of course, whenever we talk semiconductors, and most importantly, what Shiva sir just alluded to was the fact that what is encouraging has been the fact that he saw almost 30 to 40% of the people who are at Semicon India today who were students, which is very, very encouraging. And this, of course, goes to both of you, building the fact that chips need deep skills in design, testing, and packaging. So, how does boAt and HrdWyr see this collaboration shaping that particular talent pool that Shiva sir just alluded to, and which, of course, is a very encouraging future, maybe training ground for India's semiconductor ecosystem?
Yeah, miniaturization is the name of the game, right? There's a lot of things that we are going to know about as we go along. This, initial 1011 Indus 1011 gets into market. There's a lot of things that boAt's going to learn about what they can do with their physical product, with their ID of their design. There are going to
Hmm.
be things that we are going to find as challenges as these things
Hmm.
scale, and those things will lead to innovations, not just at the architectural level of a chip, but
Hmm.
across the entire stack of how we choose which process to run in. There's over time, there's a lot of different complexities that will come in the future products that we think up, things that we'll do in the hardware design, but more importantly, going forward in the AI stacks that we build. There's a lot of things that will happen, and for all of that, the model of engagement across that value chain of bringing the solution together is very critical, and that's why we have been very, very focused along with boAt to show that there is a model that we can pursue.
Shiva sir, Shyam sir, your insights on this, I would definitely love to know.
No, absolutely. I think as we discussed earlier, right? I think there is a lot of design talent available in India that has solved very, very complex problems in the semiconductor industry globally. But I guess while we also figure out how we can scale manufacturing in India, I think some of the other challenges that we would need to address along the way is also on the lines of uh, figuring out what would be the right uh, you know uh, solutions for that would meet the cost targets of the Indian customers, right? India is a very value conscious country, and obviously I think even the mindset that would be required from an engineering perspective is to make sure that every single key component in your entire bill of material is value engineered and designed in such a way that it meets the required cost targets. So I always tell my teams, right? I think when there is no cost constraints, building a product is quite easy. But I think when you're working with significant cost constraints, then I think that's where I think the engineering brains really have to be able to deliver. And I think these are some of the challenges that we will have to work on. How can we continuously optimize the cost? Not just at a product level, but at a chip, at a semiconductor, at a silicon level too. And then I think these efficiencies will come only when there is scale, right? I think we probably might be repeating this a little too often, but scale, I guess, is in some ways, I think, is a very, very critical component of success in the semiconductor space, not just here, but elsewhere as well.
Finally,
and if I may add, strategically,
sir.
when you think about it, right, till the early 90s, there was virtually no consumer technology, right? Most of the technology we used was in the workplace. There were a few things like maybe landline phones and stuff like that we used at home. We used televisions and so on. But it's only with digitalization that started in the early 90s that the consumer started becoming very important, right? And the crossover for consumers actually driving technology happened in the mid 2000s. That is when we roughly started seeing a lot of things that people actually experience at home, or they actually bring in as a device, and that started influencing what actually happens in the enterprise. So, in fact, today many of the new technologies and capabilities get tested because you can actually innovate in the consumer ecosystem a lot faster. Because the consumer ecosystem, if I may call it, is a little bit more forgiving, right? Enterprise, you have to get it to an enterprise quality, a little bit harder, but you obviously make more money if you get to the enterprise. So what has happened now is that consumers drive technology. Shyam alluded to LLMs before, right? Where did that first happen, right? It happened with things that consumers were using. I'm not going to use anybody's brand, but it started with consumers, and then saying, oh, there is an enterprise use for this. We can take this into business use cases. So for us, I think that cycle is incredibly encouraging, that we are now entering that phase where for 30 years of technology being brought to markets like India, it was always waterfalling. It was developed for the West, in the West, and then some of the development moved over here, but the technology was still built for the West, built for the developed markets. And then it was waterfalled into India or Africa or all the Southeast Asia or Latin America and all the developing economies. Today, what you're seeing, and you'll increasingly see this, because there is almost 5 billion people on the planet that are still incredibly hungry for technology that we haven't delivered yet. That technology is not going to be developed in California. I can promise you that. right?
Mm.
A big chunk of that technology or value conscious technology, frugal technology, if you want to use that term, all of that will come out of places like India. India will not be the only place. There'll stuff that will come out of Vietnam and Eastern Europe
Sure.
and other parts of Asia and Africa and everywhere, Latin America. Technologies will come, but India will be a huge engine in this. And what gets created in India, you saw that with our digital payment systems, how
Yes.
other countries are now adopting it. You're going to see that not just in software, you're going to see that in hardware. And I think we will actually drive adoption of technology going from the proverbial south to the north. And that is
Beautiful.
going to be the mega trend over the next 30, 50, maybe forever.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
if you can also add one other thing, right? I think in India, at least what we have seen is that Indian consumers and even enterprises tend to leapfrog technology, right? And generations of
Yeah.
technology. While I guess customers in the past might have been forgiving, but Indian consumers are becoming obviously a lot more aware.
Yep.
And I think with them leapfrogging generations of technology, I think Indian consumers are obviously becoming more demanding. I
Right.
think
They are the most demanding.
demanding. I think probably I think more than anybody else anywhere in the world. So I think so that's where I think it's the challenge is to see how is that you can deliver the best possible user experience at the best possible price point, and that's essentially is what the brains in India would need to work on solving.
Both of you gentlemen, it's just been so rewarding speaking with the both of you. It's fabulous synergy that we have seen. It's been very, very insightful, the points that you've touched upon. In summary, this is my final question before I let you go. It's a two-part question. We've alluded to heritage. We've alluded to the encouraging roadmap that we have ahead of us. The fact that we are going to be a powerhouse, not just with software, but hardware development, as Shiva sir just talked about. And it was also backed up by Sham sir. Uh, First part of my question, is this an homage to our heritage when you go ahead and you name the chip Indus 1011? Is there a story behind the name? And the second bit is this: I would definitely like for both of you gentlemen to give your final message to all the startups, to all the synergies, hopefully, which are in the making right now as we probably speak. And what would you like to tell them as far as the ecosystem is concerned?
Yeah, maybe I'll go first. Yeah, I mean, there was certainly a lot of thought given into what we should call our first product. Um, uh, but for us, beyond the technical capabilities, beyond partnerships and relationships and understanding of the market and technology, the most important thing that actually drives innovation, in my opinion, is humility. And
Beautiful.
you have to stay humble to create. And
Right.
the day you lose that thread in your body, I think you start doing mistakes. Of course you'll do
Yeah.
mistakes all the time, but I'd rather be humble and make mistakes than the other way around.
Beautifully put.
So I think that is very, very important for us. I think from a message that I could leave is we would like to see more combinations like we've at least been able to kick off with boAt happen. Uh, we are extremely open to work with anybody, any startup. The ecosystem is incredibly important in India. HrdWyr cannot be a one-off. boAt cannot be a one-off.
Yes.
We need 300, 400, 500 fabulous semiconductor startups in India
Nice.
for us to get to our destiny. And that
Nice.
only happens if we think about this in the long term. And and I think, like, I'll repeat myself. I think we need to stay humble about it, about to get to that point.
Wonderfully put.
Right. Yeah, I think so. To add to what Shiva just mentioned, right? I think we are trying to solve very critical and tough problems, right? And that is something that cannot be done in isolation. I think wherever game-changing innovation has happened in the past, that has happened only when the entire ecosystem has come together, co-created, co-innovated, and solved these real big problems at scale, right? So that is essentially how we would like to approach even this space at boAt, right? So we want to call out to all those startups, young and big, to come and engage with us, and then we want to see how we can
Nice.
co-create across the entire value chain, be it on the hardware side, be it on the software side, be it on the app side, and like across the entire technology spectrum, be it on the AI models and whatever it might be, right? So yeah, we definitely do want to engage more with the entire ecosystem in India as well. And what we're doing with HrdWyr here is a great start. And we would like to, of course, double down on this with HrdWyr and even with more such companies to come.
Wonderful. Again, truly humbled, truly excited, and very honored to have had both of you gentlemen. I have such a wonderful conversation with with all of us and our guests and our audience and everyone watching on AIM Network. It's been truly rewarding, and I think what is more exciting is the fact that what the journey looks like ahead, because I see that little smile in the eyes of the both of you, and that to me truly is what is the making of something momentous yet to come.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Sudhi. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
sir.
us.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much again. Well, that is a conversation which has shed light on so many facets, so many wonderful milestones which have been achieved, so many more to come. And to quote PM Modi, to summarize this discussion, I think I'll just put it across very simply. When the chips are down, bet on India. Well, that's a wrap on AIM TV front page, AIM Networks front page. It is, of course, powered by Cypher 2025. Yes, that is India's biggest AI summit and expo, which is, of course, taking place from the 17th to the 19th of September at KTPO Whitefield, Bengaluru. And of course, it is brought to you by AIM Network, which is India's definitive media organization on everything AI and technology. So, till we meet again, go ahead and keep watching and doing this, which is Think AI, Think AIM.